Today, we're going to talk about a piece of technology that completely changed the game for humanity. It stretched the reach of our own hands, and by doing that, it ended up reshaping entire civilizations. And no, I'm not talking about the engine or the microchip. I'm talking about something much, much simpler. A beautiful combination of wood and string, the bow and arrow. I mean, just think about it for a second. Imagine you're an early human. You need to hunt, you need to defend yourself. Your only options are things you can throw or getting right up close and personal, which, as you can imagine, is incredibly dangerous. So for thousands and thousands of years, we had this one huge problem. How do you fight? How do you hunt from a safe distance? And the answer, when it finally came, was just pure genius. You take a flexible stick, you take a taut string, you put them together, and suddenly you have a device that can store and release energy with absolutely devastating results. This wasn't just another tool. This was a full-on revolution. So here's how we're going to break it down. We're going to start with its origins as a prehistoric survival tool. Then we'll see how it became a weapon for ancient empires. We'll look at the legendary, fearsome English longbow, and then see how it became the engine of the Mongol conquest. And finally, we'll follow its journey from the battlefield right into the modern world of sport. Okay, so let's jump in. Our story really begins tens of thousands of years ago. And for early humans, you have to understand, the bow and arrow wasn't just some neat upgrade. It was a massive, monumental leap forward in their ability to just survive. What's really staggering is just how ancient this tech is. We're not talking a few thousand years. Look at this timeline. We found arrowheads in South Africa that date back to 64,000 BCE. And get this, recent discoveries in a cave in France suggest that modern humans brought this advanced weapon with them into Europe way, way earlier than we ever thought. And this was a total game changer. All of a sudden, a hunter could take down a huge animal without having to get close enough to be trampled or gored. A small group could defend their camp from predators or enemies way more effectively. It meant more food, more security, and it completely changed our relationship with the world around us. So the natural question is, how did this incredible survival tool get scaled up? Well, as small hunter-gatherer groups started growing into the world's first great civilizations, the bow was transformed from a hunting tool into a truly terrifying instrument of war. Armies were no longer just a mob of guys with spears. You had the Egyptians, the Persians, the great ancient empires, all creating elite units of archers. Think about the tactical advantage. You could unleash thousands of arrows, just raining them down on an enemy, breaking their charge and their morale before your front lines even had to fight. The bow became a symbol of a king's power, the power to strike from anywhere. And this account, from the 12th century, it just perfectly captures the raw, armor-punching power we're talking about. The fact that a single arrow could go through a knight's mail, through his leg, and pin him to his horse, well, that was a terrifying thought for any armored warrior. And that power was about to be perfected. Which brings us to medieval England, and to the weapon that would just dominate the battlefields of the 100 Years' War. I'm talking, of course, about the English longbow. It became the stuff of legend at battles like Crécy, Poitiers, and maybe most famously of all, Agincourt. You see, the longbow's success wasn't just the bow itself. It was a whole system. It had to be made from a specific wood, yew. It was huge, often taller than the man using it. It took incredible strength to pull, so much so that archaeologists can identify the skeletons of longbowmen because their bones are literally warped from the strain. And, critically, English kings made it the law that every able-bodied man had to practice, creating a whole nation of expert archers. 60,000. That's the estimated number of arrows the English archers could loose in the first minute alone at the Battle of Agincourt. That's not a volley, that's a storm of steel. An arrow storm that literally darkened the sky and just shredded the charging French knights. Now, its main competition on the battlefield was the crossbow. But this chart tells you everything you need to know. A good longbowman could shoot maybe 4 or 5 times faster than a crossbowman. And on a muddy, rainy battlefield, the longbow's simple design was just far more reliable. That incredible rate of fire, that was its killer app. Okay, so now let's turn our attention away from the muddy fields of Europe and travel east to the vast open steppes of Asia. Because out there, a different kind of bow, in the hands of a different kind of warrior, was about to build the largest land empire the world has ever seen. The Mongol bow was an absolute masterpiece of engineering. It wasn't one piece of wood. It was a composite, built from layers of wood, animal horn, and sinew, all glued together. This design packed an unbelievable amount of power into a small, compact frame, which made it perfect for shooting with deadly accuracy from the back of a galloping horse. This was a high-tech weapon, and each one could take almost a year to make. But, of course, the bow was just one piece of the Mongol war machine. Genghis Khan built his army on ideas that were radical for the time. He promoted generals based on skill, not who their parents were. He organized everyone into a decimal system to ensure discipline. They absorbed the skills of the people they conquered, like Chinese siege engineers. And they were innovators, using things like whistling arrows to signal complex commands across a chaotic battlefield, and to absolutely terrify their enemies. So, if this weapon was so incredibly effective for both English foot soldiers and Mongol horsemen, why don't modern armies use it? Why did the bow eventually disappear from war? Well, let's take a look at its decline and its reinvention. Starting around the 15th and 16th centuries, a new sound started echoing across the battlefields of the world. It was loud, it was smoky, and it was a technology that would change everything: gunpowder. The early musket was here, and it was about to push the bow off the battlefield for good. Now, here's the crucial point. The musket's advantage wasn't that it was better one-on-one. An expert archer was probably still far deadlier than an early musketeer. No, the real revolution was about training and logistics. It takes years, even decades, to make a great archer. It takes a few weeks to teach a peasant to load and fire a musket. A king could raise a huge army of musketeers almost overnight, and that advantage sealed the bow's fate in war. But the bow didn't just disappear. It transformed. Today, its legacy is alive and well. It's a centerpiece of Olympic competition, a test of incredible precision. It's a vital part of cultural heritage for people all over the world, and it's still a popular tool for recreational hunting. It just found a new life beyond the battlefield. So when you look at the big picture, the story of this simple piece of wood and string is really the story of us. It helped us survive, it built empires, it toppled empires, and it has lasted through the centuries as this powerful symbol of skill, focus, and pure human ingenuity. And that kind of leaves us with one last question to chew on. The history of the bow and arrow shows us that the technologies that change the world aren't always the most complicated ones. Often, they're just really elegant solutions to really basic problems. It makes you wonder, what simple tool that we're all using today might be the one that goes on to define the next 1,000 years?